All right, welcome back. This is going to be part 23 of Dinosaurs and Man. And in this one here, we're going to continue on with the subject of Behemoth. Behemoth mentioned in the book of Job, and we're still laying the groundwork up before we actually start getting into the topic of Behemoth and trying to figure out exactly what this animal was by the description of what's in the Bible. And last that we were together, I was talking about this. We were going through the timeline on when Job actually, where was he? Where was he as far as in the timeline of the biblical time frame? When did he exist? When was this actual event, this historical event? When did it happen? And I was using this uh, book right here, which is actually a map. It's a big map that you can open it up and fold it out. It actually folds out, and you can put it on your wall. You can actually take it. I guess there's a way of cutting it off, and you can actually attach it to a wall. It's an outstanding tool, guys. I mean, this guy that did this this is before smartphones was and all the distractions that we have today. This is when people had more time to just sit and think and ponder. And but at any rate, I was telling you that that I believe the length of that thing was about 8 to 9 feet. I was way off. I was way off on that. This morning, I told Sandra, I said, you know what? This is bugging me. I said, let me go get the tape measure. And we went in the living room and we started unfolding this thing out. And it was too big. It was way too big to unfold out. We have a small, little tiny house. And so I said, let's go outside. Let's go out in the driveway. And so we went out in the driveway, you guys. And if you'll notice on the screen, this is how big this map is. It is 22 feet, 1.5 inches long. 22 feet. I said about 8 to 9 feet. And so this is the first time since I've had this book or this map that I've ever done this, but it's 22 feet, 1.5 inches long, and it's 27 inches tall. This is a gigantic map. And I asked Sandra to be my model for scale, and so she's standing right beside of this thing, guys. And so now the part that where she's at, that's actually the beginning of the timeline. But it covers a 6,000-year time period from the biblical creation to the late 19th century, what would be the 1800s. And so this is an outstanding tool to have if you want to kind of find out what was going on in the world in conjunction with the Bible and what was going on in the biblical narrative in the time frame. And so, but I love this thing. I don't know how long I've had this, but it is. I haven't dug too deep, guys, but it is quite possible that they may have this in digital form. It would shock me if they did not. And because of everything going digital, I would love to have a digital copy of this myself, and so I may look into that and see if they do have that. I love a good book, and so I like to open a book and turn pages and stuff like that. I'm just old-fashioned, but don't get me wrong, I will still use the internet and some of the other things. I just got to be real careful where I get my information from, and if I can double check that information with another reference or reference notes and stuff like that. And so, but this is a great tool to have. I think, if I remember correctly, this is about $40. For you Bible students and teachers out there, this is something you definitely want to put in your library. I have definitely referenced this thing from time to time in my own studies. And so, but at any rate, now what we're going to do here is we're going to look at Job. We're going to still look at Job a little bit. I want to kind of introduce who he is, who he was as far as an individual. And if you'll notice on the screen, it says that I'm just going to pick out some verses here that's going to just kind of explain the family and who Job was in conjunction with his family. And so it says here, and his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their three sisters to eat and to drink with them. And it says, and it was so when the days of the children feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. So it very well could be that these kids just like to party. And maybe Job was a little concerned about that. And so since he's not around them all the time and he can't monitor them and he doesn't know, maybe there's something that they have done that was a sin against the Lord. So what he's doing, and he's offering sacrifices for them, just in case that those kids might have done something against the Lord. So this is the kind of guy he was. Now it goes on in the chapter, and 1 verse 8, that it says that the Lord. Now what had happened here? Let's back up a little bit. Satan, and it says that Satan and the sons of God, that the sons of God came to present themselves before God, and Satan also came with them. And now the sons of God are angels. That's a term that is used for the angels, especially in this verse here. And so now Satan coming amongst them, the Lord said to Satan, he said, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, and one that feareth God and escheweth, which means to depart or avoid evil. And so this is what God is saying about Job. That's what he's saying about him. That's quite a statement to make concerning an individual. And so he says, a perfect and upright man, and one that feareth God and escheweth, or he departs or he avoids evil. I don't know many of us, I know I can't say this about my own self. And so that's quite a statement to say about this man. Now, Satan then comes back and says, doth Job feareth God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in their land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And so what happens from here on out is God gives Satan the okay to start touching the things that Job have. And the first thing that happened is he takes away his property. He takes away his cattle. He attacks Job's children and kills them all. And so each one, Job, right in rapid succession, he's being told this through servants, one after another, after another, after another. And imagine, guys, if you can just imagine for a minute, just imagine your house burning down. How that would affect us, because you got everything in your house. You got, memorabilia, you got pictures, and it's your home. It's your home. That's where a lot of us, we feel the most secure, is in our home. And then now that gets taken from you. Now imagine that gets taken from you, and then your family is dead, has been killed. Right after that, and then let's just say maybe you lose your job on top of that. So everything that you have has basically been taken away in a moment's notice. And so I could only imagine what Job was going through. And so And then not only that, then his wife comes and says, do you really want to keep your integrity? Are you trying to really keep your integrity? Why don't you just curse God and die? And so now his wife is even saying things that she shouldn't be saying. And then his friends, he's got 3 friends that come over to visit him. And at first they do what's right. They're sitting still with him. They're not saying anything. I can only imagine these guys are probably saying, what in the world could I possibly say in this type of incident here? I mean, whenever someone that loses a child or a family member, sometimes guys, I just don't know what to say, and the only thing we can say is, I'm sorry, I'll be praying for you. If there's anything I can do, we're here. Your heart just goes out to them, because you can only imagine what that's like. And only those of us that's been through anything like that can only feel that. And so, but what happens is these guys they go from being silent to it's just boiling in them. They must be thinking to themselves, man, why did all this happen to him all at once? I mean, he just didn't lose his cattle and his property. My goodness, he lost his kids too. Everything all at once. He must have done something that was wrong. And so evidently these guys, it just got so boiling within them that they just had to say something about what was going on. And that's when they start to point fingers at him. And so they start to say, hey, listen, there must be something you're keeping from us. This don't just happen to anybody. You must have sinned against the Lord. There's got to be some reason that all this has happened. And so it just goes on and on and on. So most of the book of Job is about these guys accusing Job of doing something that is wrong. And so, or going against the Lord, of being, a secret, maybe he's got some secret sin in his life that is just so god awful that God is judging him. And so all this is a judgment of the Lord upon Job. And then at the very end, God answers back and says, who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? And basically he's saying here, who are these guys that are saying things that they don't even know what's going on? And so then that's when God rebukes these 3 gentlemen. And that's something that we have to remember. Whenever something is going on in somebody's life, whether it be good or bad, now God is in control of it all. Whether it's evil that's going on in this world, he is the one that only allows it to go so far. And so those of us that may see something happen in somebody's life, let's just say it's a catastrophe, we don't know why that happened. We have no idea. We got to remember that we're living in a world, in a sinful world, a world that is going directly in opposition against God and his word. And we're living in a world that don't even want God. They're trying to kick him out of everything, anything that was established way back in the beginning of this nation. And so, and they're trying to rewrite our history books. And so, it's just, and then, he is in control. He's still in control, even though that's happening. And so whenever something happens to somebody, we don't know why it's happening, and so I think a lot of us will immediately go to, okay, if something bad happens to somebody, it's because they did something that was bad. And so they must be getting judged for something that they did wrong. Because if you're an outstanding Christian, if you're a quote unquote faithful Christian, then that means nothing bad can happen to you. And so I'm going to tell you right now, guys, you can be as faithful as you want and still things can happen to you. Physical ailments can happen to you. You can have financial problems. You can have your spouse can have an affair on you. I've seen these things. These things can happen to good people. And you sit back and I've said it to myself, it just don't seem fair. This person, this woman, this man is such a really good person. They just don't deserve this. And so, but we have to remember, why did this happen? and we just don't know. We don't see things in the eternal perspective as God does. And it's about the only thing we can do is we can just consult, tell them, I'm sorry, maybe sit like these gentlemen did and begin with, and don't say anything. Just give them a hug, tell them you'll pray for them. I'm here for you. I am so sorry. And just mourn with them without pointing any types of fingers to them. And so, but guys, I tell you what, let's stop right here. And when we meet up next time, we're going to start going through chapter 40. And but I just kind of wanted to lay the groundwork up. I should have probably done this before we got into Leviathan, but it just seems like this has been on my heart to do this and to kind of lay the groundwork up on who was Job, in general. What kind of a person was he? Because if you really want to go through it, and I highly advise you guys to go through go through the book of Job. He loses everything. He loses everything, and then the people that's closest to him start accusing him of being some rotten sinner, and God is judging him for something that he's done. It gets pretty bad, guys, how they treat him. Even his wife tells him, why don't you just curse God and die? And so, it's an amazing book to read. And so, but God is in control. We got to remember, he's in control of everything. And so whether it be bad or good, even in our nation right now and in our world right now, the things that I see going on, and so that is absolutely just ridiculous, I still have to remember he's in control. He's in control of this nonsense. And there's a payday coming. And I just have to put my trust in that. And no matter what happens, whether to me or my family or everybody around me, he is in control of this. And so he only allows what he will allow, and that's it. And that's what you'll see in the whole book of Job, is he's still in control. And he only allows Satan to go only so far. And he tells him, you can do this, but you can't do this. You can do this, but you can't do that. That's one thing you got to remember in this. And so Satan he doesn't just have a free-for-all down here. God is still telling him how far he can go. And he tells him how far he can go because God has there's a purpose. There's a certain purpose in his will. And he will have that. He will allow that to be established and fulfilled. Okay? You guys take care. I love you. And we'll see you next time.